Trying this again, people. I have a question to ask. You give people time to come in, right? Isn't that how it goes? I'm trying to find this live on my page. Oh, I have it. It doesn't go like that. I don't hear anything. There we go. So the first thing I want to say is this company, StreamYard, has really good customer service. Thumbs up to StreamYard and customer service. Second thing is I changed the resolution on the camera to 720 PSI or whatever it is. And it's not flashing as much. Pixels. Now, I've only done this once with this server, the service provider. So I'm like wanting to pull up the old, what is it called? Google Documents. And honest to God, I don't know what I did last time. Oh my God. Good morning, Lucy. Okay, here's what's happening, Lucy. Let's just get to the crunch, okay? You can help me to figure this one out, right? Because I just have to keep talking and not listen to myself. I get distracted listening to myself because I have to turn off the mic. So I don't hear anything other than it's as if I was talking to you. Okay, so just hang with me on this one for a minute, all right? And of course, this lags, so I'm like behind. It does a little psyche thing to your brain, right? Now, before I go into what I want to talk about in terms of this video here, right? I do want to say that if I want to upgrade with this service provider, right, then I can bring in videos as an overlay and I can run them and you can hear them, right? But as it is right now, we're just using the free service and they're bringing it down to 20 hours a month, which is fine for me because I don't do a lot of lives anyway at this point. And yeah, okay. So your box is over there, Lucy. I should really go out into the yard and pluck a few of those little sage plants. I think I'll do that today. I'll put them in an envelope. Not an envelope. I'll put them in a plastic bag and I'll put them in the fridge so they don't die, right? They'll stay fresh. And as long as you have the roots, you'll be fine. Okay, so let me just focus, okay? Focus. It's Sunday, easy like Sunday morning, but I got to focus here, people. Because, you know, I got a lot of heavy duty stuff I have to do. And, you know, I can do it around these lives, whether I do it through camera, do it this way, or whether I do it through a live. Like, I need to know if these lives are even viable in terms of, as long as I can download the video after it's been uploaded to YouTube and have a copy for my hard drive for my kids, or for whatever reason, things get lost or deleted, I always have that second copy. I'm good to go. I know you can get that service if you pay for it. You upgrade with the StreamYard, but I was just looking at one of their little blocks in there, and it looks like I can download the video. So it doesn't matter to me as long as I can download the video and put it onto my hard drive, people. I don't mind which way we do this. I don't mind if I do it through a live stream or if I do it through the camera. Okay. And what I want to do, people, this is what I want to do. And this is the point of this video is, for the ones that are here, they can answer the question. For the ones that come in later, if they want to leave an answer in the comment section, that would be good. But, let's just get back to 2015 when Uncle John, was medically kidnapped. And by 2017, I had filed 2 legitimate lawsuits, 2 of them. They're legitimate. Okay. Nothing has been set in stone in terms of it's a no-go no more. Right? The last time I spoke to a judge, he sent me to the cops to ask the cops to investigate what happened to Uncle John. All right. But that didn't happen because Shimei died. And with everything that's happened around Shimei, it's not like I can trust the cops to do anything. Correct. Because they don't want to. Right? Because some of them are involved in this crap, people. So in the meantime, I file lawsuits that are legitimate, that technically you should be able to Google them and bring them up on the Supreme Court server. You should be able to have access to them because they've been filed. However, I don't think you're going to find mine, people. I really don't. I don't know if it's possible to find them, but they're there. And being that they've been shuffled under the rug with a lot of rhetoric, right? In terms of we have justice in Canada, we're the epitome, the professionals in society that make all the fucking rules for the benefit of our communities. But yet things aren't being addressed on a court level because you got, Andrew the Dragon coming in there, breathing fire all over the place, burning the shit up, right? To bury it, people, to bury it. So how is the public going to know exactly what I was doing with Uncle John? Unless, of course, I read it or I make it available where you can, click on a PDF file and read it for yourself. Or you can do both. You can listen to me read it. And then at some point, you should be able to locate it on the internet somewhere. If you can't locate it through a court fucking docket, you should be able to locate it through maybe Google Documents. Right? So this is what this video is about. I want to know if people even want to sit there and listen to me read what I wrote when I filed a lawsuit against Fraser Health Authority and CIBC Bank. I am willing to do that, people. Okay? Because that's the only way it's going to get legitimately documented. That's the only way. Okay? And then from there, if anyone finds themselves in a position like mine, for whatever reason, they have something to pick through to build their own case. Because as it is, the way the court system seems to want to work is you come in with your 5 pages, right? Out of 187 pages. We'll just say Fraser Health is 187 pages that I wrote, which I will read to you 1 page at a time. And I will find a way to put it in a PDF file and upload it so that you can locate that for yourself and see that it is legitimate and that Uncle John's suffering wasn't done in vain. Okay. Along with my children and grandchildren. And the same is applicable to CIBC Bank and whatever else I write in regards to Shimei. Okay. Because we're not going to get justice through the court system right now as it is, because they're too busy burying it under those flames that Andrew the Dragon is shooting around in court to get it dismissed, thrown out, or passed off to the fucking cops. That's not justice, people. And I sit here, I'm going through YouTube. I see all these YouTubers crashing, big YouTubers, like YouTubers that, can get anywhere from 1,000 to 20,000 views with one video in just a few days. Right. And lots of them are fading out. And then, I look at different kinds of YouTubers and, different topics and everything. And, a lot of people are just crashing. And, me, I'm like kind of like steady as you go, right? I'm kind of like steady as you go. My numbers in terms of videos, they don't really go up. And if they do, they, at some point they get suppressed and they go back down. And I'm always held at that poverty level. It's kind of like my income. Anytime I get a little ahead financially and I can get caught up with paying bills or, I have a budget, a 1 or 2, 3 year budget to pay off this and do that and get that done. And, some fucking monkey wrench comes in and it pushes me right back down into poverty. And I'm like living below the poverty level, people, literally, whereas if I was coming in from fucking some third world country with no income and living like that for years, because I've done it. And then when you can crawl yourself back up and you think that maybe you can, get a handle on your bills, pay off just whatever it is, and then another just chop off at the knees and you're right back down there. Well, YouTube does the same fucking shit. Same fucking shit for whatever. Because I don't think it's all me, people. I don't. Maybe it takes me a long time to tell the freaking story, but at the end of the day, it's a damn good story. And it's being suppressed, just like with the court system suppressing those notice of claims. If anyone knows how to Google court documents, if you think that you can help me to find those notice of claims that I filed, please offer your help. Okay, let's find them. Let's see if they're fucking even on the roster in terms of a document that's been archived. Okay. Is that when a lawsuit goes into a courthouse, does it not get archived? When does it have the privilege of being, documented in terms of you go onto the website to find out who's going to court, what the results were, blah, 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 because you find those things. I just don't know if I could ever find mine. And since, chances are I will never be able to find them because the court and the government, they don't want you to know what's happening to the old people out here and everywhere else around town, because it's not just happening in British Columbia, Canada. It's actually a big problem in the United States of America with Medicaid, right? Oh, old person has Medicaid. Oh, great. Let's just put them into a retirement home, old folks home, and just keep them there and suck the fucking taxpayers' money in terms of that life insurance medical insurance. It's because it's public medical insurance, right? And and those old people, they become trapped to those environments as they're being drugged and having early deaths, and many of them being abused, right? Being neglected, simply because Medicaid can pay for it. That's all. Because if Medicaid is not going to pay for it, go to the next page, and now you're out in the fucking street where there's 50,000 homeless people in just one small geographical area in terms of all of California. That's just one geographical. Los Angeles, isn't it? Like 50,000, 60,000 homeless people. Go to New York, and you got millions of homeless people. Then they just stuff them into, what do you call those things? Homeless shelters, 10,000 deep. Bunk after bunk after bunk bed after bunk bed after bunk bed after fucking bunk bed. And we're talking women with children, men with children, families, old people, doesn't matter. But they have no money to steal, people. That's what it is. They have no money to steal. If you're stealing money, you try and hide the truth. So where are my lawsuits? I want to know. Where are they registered in the court? Help me find them. And being that it's probably going to take some time, and they watered it down, assuming that we can even find them, I'm thinking maybe what we should do, or I should do, Because it doesn't matter what I do on YouTube, because that's going to be suppressed anyway, because it's forced poverty. I've been living in forced poverty for a very long fucking time. I'm prepared to die broke, people. I don't really give a shit. I don't. I'm broke. I died. Okay, move along. But at least I'm going to make a difference. Right? So, I have two ways to do it. I can do it this way, through live, assuming that I can, what do you call it? Download the video, right? And put it onto my external hard drive. So I always have that copy for whatever reason. After I'm gone, what my kids decide to do with that copy is their business. All I know is I left a trail behind, right? Or I can do it the long way and do it with this and then upload them. This way is a little more interactive if somebody wants to jump in and say something. You know, periodically I can read, I can take a break, I can answer a question if the question pops up. Because it is in front of the jury, as far as I'm concerned, because there is no justice in the court system. Although I'm going back into the court system, drawing on the exact stuff that I'm going to be reading people. And I have to find a way to put it up on this document stuff, right? Which I want to screen share. Application window. I don't know how to do that. Chrome tab. Hold on. Okay, yeah. Let's see if I can do this. All right. Hold on. I know I kind of veered off here for a minute. I've only used, okay. Is that what you're seeing? You can see my Google document stuff there, right? Is that what we're looking at? Okay, that's what we're looking at. And it's too big though. Maybe this size. Is that? All right. No. Do you have flexible thumb or hitchhiker thumb? I don't understand what that means. I don't know. I don't know. I get a lot of those, but they're not my thumbs. They're somebody else's thumbs. And that's another thing. You know, not only am I forced into poverty financially, time after time, year after year, you go into example, 2003, they cut me off of social assistance illegally. I can prove that in a court of law. They don't want to look at it. It's there, people. It's there. It's written right into Uncle John's lawsuit. They completely fucking ignored it because they know that what they did was wrong. But what it did is it forced me into poverty, dire poverty, below the poverty line. I had zero income for 6 years, people. 6 years outside of a few outfits that I made with my costumes and sold, right? And my family allowance and my credit cards. That was the only way I could survive in a Western world that professes itself to look after the meek and the vulnerable and the children. I filed a lawsuit, right, defending Uncle John's human rights, and they buried it. And as they buried it, they manufactured poverty. And they kept me below a certain income level. And anytime throughout the years and within what I will read to you, at some point, you will see how the government influences people to remain in poverty. That's why when people or children are born into poverty, the chances of them rising above and breaking above that subculture, right, are slim, people. Because there's no justice. There is no justice because justice comes on many levels. Right? So if you're going into a courthouse and they only want 5 pages of information so that they can take you into another room and explore the documents and whisper behind closed doors about what the crimes were that were committed, and then barter to cover them up so that nobody else knows what the hell is going on. Where is the justice in that? There is no justice, people. There is none. Because what's happening is Fraser Health Authority, they were successful through their trickery and the misleading of the court, and with the colluded efforts with the court to try and dismiss it, try and prevent it from going in front of an appeal board, and then shifted it off to a policing agency that would have not taken it serious, people. Because if they were going to take it serious, they would have acted at the time when the shit was happening, and they didn't. And that's why I took it to court. But here it is. I broke it up into 2 separate lawsuits because even though I knew both of them at the time couldn't do what one did without the other, right? I was trying to be fair in regards to as to who was more culpable than the other. And I really, being naive, thought that the corporations and the people that work within those corporations would have some sort of fucking ethical values and would just kind of like, take the whatever glimpses of corruption that were peeking through my notice of claim and fucking do something about it to protect their integrity and their fucking business's reputation. But they didn't, people. They tried to cover it up, right? Because as soon as it got tossed off to the cops, right, CIBC came in up the ranks and wants to see documents with their lawyer coming in saying, well, Mr. Duncan signed this, sign this. She won't say he signed it under duress. She won't say that he signed it under sedation and mind control and manipulation. She won't mention any of that. All she's going to say is, well, he inherited $250,000 from Joan Duncan, and he was cognitive when he signed over the paper to hand it over to his sister, right? As she's running around accusing me of stealing his wallet. So even if I show up to that conference with CIBC Bank and show them that I have Uncle John's original ID and it never did get fucking stolen, that they jumped on the bandwagon to steal Uncle John's money based on a lie, right? Because they thought, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking, people. I don't know what the fuck, other than the persons that were manipulating the internal paperwork to get that shit to happen. They wiped me out of enduring power of attorney, and they wiped me out of power of attorney, people. I don't have just one power of attorney. I have 2. That's why they needed that time to appoint Eleanor, right, to be the power of attorney for this, and the bank was the power of attorney. I've read it, but see, by CIBC Bank, they took down the video because they didn't like the fucking truth getting out there. I can upload the video, people, seriously, without any pictures on it, so you don't actually see the black and white, but you'll still fucking hear it. And they can take it down again, because guess what? It's going to be fucking posted on, what is it called? Google Documents? At least my notice of claim. Maybe not their rebuttal. Come to court and, show us Uncle John's ID so that we can finally realize that you never did steal his ID. Because that was the catalyst. To steal his money, which is manufactured poverty, people. Just another form of If Uncle John was poor, had nothing to steal, he would have been treated like Sierra. So, more like Sunday morning rant. Yes, Miss Italy D. This is some serious shit that we need to wade through. And here's another thing. My kids, when they're mad at me, okay, I got to take this off. My kids, when they're mad at me, right? I got about a half an hour more just to go on with this, okay? Because what direction is this channel going into, people? Like, seriously, what have I been doing YouTube fucking videos for all these years? Like, what have I been doing it for? I've been basically doing it for the nonprofit, right? I've been doing it for the kids, for the families, the men, the women, the old people, the children. Doesn't matter, right? I've been just the birds, the fucking raccoons, all of it, right? I've been doing it for the communities, people. So, like, it gets depressing when I'm sitting at like 54 fucking views, knowing that, probably a good, 2/3 of it is like just, that hardcore one, group of people that actually listen to me. And the other 1/3 is going back into the page to read what was already posted as YouTube is taking out the post. Right. And, and again, it's like, it's a form of like manufactured poverty. So, but the thing is, I don't mind being poor, people. I don't need to live in a fucking castle in order to build my self-esteem around, living in a fucking mansion. Like, that's not where my self-esteem comes from. And that's sure in hell not where no justice is going to come from. So, I don't mind being in this situation outside of, I want to make it meaningful for the ones that are participating with good faith. And unfortunately, I'm dragging you down a fucking rabbit hole that, is unpredictable in terms of we don't know what's coming around the corner, people, because we're dealing with individuals that have access to tax dollars that will use it against, I don't want to say us, because I don't want to put my burdens on you and put your lives and your family lives in jeopardy, because this is not what it's about, people. I'm just following through with what I started out when I was doing park events. I'm just following through on what I started out with anything when I stepped out with my foot and put myself in front of the fucking camera to promote this nonprofit with Goodwill. Right? But we can't have goodwill in the community if our old people are being hijacked for their assets. It doesn't matter if it's a house. It doesn't matter if it's an inheritance. It doesn't matter if it's their pension plans. It doesn't matter if it's fucking gold bullion and silver coins sitting up in their fucking walls. It doesn't matter. Okay? People need to be having a sense of security in their environments, in the countries that I born in, raised in, have lived in for the majority of their lives. It's the opposite now. You're born into a country, you raise up in a country, you live your life in a country to find out now that you become the fucking prey in that country. And that's what's happening with the old people. Many of them, 10%. That's all it takes, people. 10%. The other 90% get by, but the other 10% are the ones in the positions like Uncle John, as the court system is hiding the truth, because they're burying the lawsuits that are coming in based on they don't like the way it's been written, because it speaks the truth. So, in order for me to be able to educate you and educate myself, because I'm going into round 2, right? I have to redo it again, people. I have to read the lawsuits that I have already written anyway, before I can really sit down and write another one for Shemaine. And it's not for the money. It's for the justice, people. The money is just to get their attention. That's all, right? Okay. But I really do need to read what I wrote the first time around. I need to read the full, and this is the point of this video. Are you interested in hearing what I'm going to read? Because it's 187 pages for Fraser Health Authority and 167 or something like that for CIBC Bank. Okay. I won't mention no last names. I will mention the first name that's written into those outside of the Chorney or Duncan as an Uncle John, right? Mr. John Bernard Duncan, I will say Judy Chorney, Shimei Chorney, Marcaine Chorney, Tisha Chorney, Sierra Chorney, Andre Chorney, right? I will say Brooks Chorney. I will say that. But when it comes to Sharon, I'll just say Sharon. What's CIBC Bank going to say? What is Fraser Health Authority going to say? Because technically, those lawsuits that I filed should be online, people. You should be able to access them and read all 187 pages, okay, as they were filed for your own reference, to quell your own curiosity. But I doubt you'll be able to find them. I really doubt it. So I want to either read them or post them. I do. And being that I have to read them before I really sit down and write for Shimei, because I can't write 187 pages for Shimei. I'll just shake the walls in the courthouse again and the bloody building will fall down. They don't like it, right? So at best, I can write 20 pages. It's there, people. The 20 pages are there. I just don't know how to write it in order to be able to compensate for their cover-ups. Because as soon as I write it, they're going to try and cover it up, right? They're either going to dismiss it. Oh, no, I get that one freebie. I get that one freebie to take my 20 pages and bring it down to 10. I can't come in with 167 and really sock it to them. But at first I was allowed 20. And then when I wrote the 20, they didn't even acknowledge the 20. They acted like it was not even ordered by the master tailor, right? Right? Was it Master Taylor? Master Taylor. He said 20 pages. And then when it came time to file the 20 pages, they wouldn't take it. They argued with me. Then they signed a piece of paper saying that they took it with under duress. And then when it went in front of the judge that dismissed it, the judge didn't fucking acknowledge it. And Andrew the Dragon just stood there and said, oh, it was just something that Master Taylor asked for, but it didn't really mean anything. So the judge dismissed it. And then he falsified his own fucking records, people. His own transcripts, he falsified them. And then when I went to court to go put an appeal in, along comes Andrew the Dragon again with his fucking binder like this, as big as his ass, right? As I'm being told, I can't come in with no more than 3 pages. Just 3. 3.5 is too much. But Andrew comes in with a big book like this, plus a little one, with all his funky case file shit. And the judge was going to throw it out. And then I started waving around and started just with the Criminal Code of Canada. And that's when he sent me to the cops. I haven't gone back yet, people. I haven't received any paperwork in the mail. Nothing. Nothing. CIBC Bank is sitting on their fucking thumb up their asses, right? Because they thought they were going to worm out of their fucking responsibility of how they made it so that Uncle John was put in a fucking hammock, drugged up in the bowels of a ferry, shipped over like a piece of fucking meat in a package, and then hauled off to emergency so the taxpayers could pay for it. And then sat up there and accused me of stealing his ID as they're all running around looking for his life insurance policy, badgering Shimei. The first week he was gone. And because Shimei's not here anymore to testify to that, CIBC Bank seems to think they got away with what they fucking did to my family. Because it's manufactured poverty, people. Manufactured poverty. So you work with what you have when you're poor. And currently we have this. So I'm going to have to find a way to list these things in terms of, I'm going to fool around with this Google document. I'm going to see if I can save it into a PDF file so that I can, I don't know, put them somewhere. Really, what I should do, I'll show you where I should put them. Give me a minute here. I'm not very prepared when it comes to this stuff. I'm still trying out the service. But like I said, if you have a problem with them, you know, they're really good. You go on to, what do you call that? Facebook, and you Google up StreamYard. And they'll answer your questions. And they'll try and help you. Okay, let me bring this up. Hold on. Give me a minute. Again, I'm not very good with this stuff. Okay. I'm pretty worn out. Now, how did I get that before? Hold on. Okay. Do you see that? Anything that I write around Shmei needs to be added onto this. Now, does it move? This is right online. Read more. Has it changed? I don't know. Why am I there? There we go. Yeah. See, this is what I like about StreamYard. You can do this, right? This one actually has a MIDI with, what is that called? Stayin Alive. And anytime my videos catch the song, it doesn't matter if it's in an MP4, MIDI, or whatever, right? If it gets into the video, YouTube will snag on to Stayin Alive. At first, they used to mute my videos. They muted one of my park videos in 2012 just because of Stayin Alive. There's that forced poverty, right? And, you know, in those days, I was a little more apt to try and, you know, whatever, right? And they released it. So, but if what am I listening to? Oh. I think I'm in trouble, people. Oh, fuck. What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Well, we're in trouble. Come on, let's hurry. Come on. We're in trouble now, people. Fuck. Oh, no. I don't know how to turn it off. Okay. YouTube. I did not do that on purpose. That now has put my video. Am I still even live? Okay. Oh my God. You see, this is the thing about working on the nonprofit, man. I get too stressed out. I get too stressed out. I just sorted out my table over here, was going through my old records, Herbie Hancock with the breakdancing and just, I've got some really, really, really nice records, people, that I can't play, even in the background as I do my videos, because, it goes back to that basically forced poverty where you're being controlled to, live below the poverty line. Not that I would be using music to promote anything that I do, although it is my job to promote goodwill in the community, right? In terms of what I'm working on nonprofit. So that I'm sure will get me a copyright because it's Stayin Alive. I've had them before where they've actually muted out the whole video, but then they've released the video when I used from a park event from 2012. And I think it happened again where I was doing something and it came up. And so anyway, oh my God. Shit. See, I don't know. I couldn't shut it off. I couldn't shut it off. I couldn't shut it off, YouTube. I had to close down the page. So I can't even show you now what I was trying to talk about. Right? Serious. Oh, this is why I got to get a hold of YouTube. Because it goes back to that, even though, we're kind of like below the poverty level here in terms of a group, people, we're not a very large group, right? Doesn't mean that, at some point that, whatever we're doing can't make a difference in the great grand scheme of things, because not everything boils down to money. Sometimes just asking for the money brings the attention to where that change can come from. So taking it back to what I was talking about, assuming that this video isn't muted, right? Or, they won't copy strike me. Like, they don't give me a strike. They'll either mute my video or they'll make it where, they'll monetize if they want. Right. And when it comes in, it will just go in with, what is it called? It'll be just a standard. Oh, oops, you made a mistake, Miss Johnny. Here's the paperwork. Got to fill it out so that we can keep it up. Let's just hope it stays in that direction. At least I'm not sweating. Right. Okay. So back to what I was saying. I have to read the 2 notices of claims that I've already written. Do you want me to do it through live where we can have a little interaction with it? And if I'm reading something and you have a question, good morning, Deborah, you can ask me right then on the fly, right? In terms of as I'm reading the notice of claim. Or should I do it old school with the camera and just kind of do it that way, right? Do it that way. I'm watching myself now, right? Wanting to make sure everything works. Doing it that way, which is going to kind of limit us in a roundabout way, because, if you have a question right then and there, you're going to want to answer it, right? I mean, at some point, it can get a little distracting, but then on the other hand, it also clears things up kind of like as we go along, right? And being that you can't really rely on comments in terms of you post a comment on a video, you don't, oh my God, Stayin Alive is still playing in my head here. If you comment, YouTube is not obligated to keep comments up forever. That's kind of one reason why I wanted to bring in a message board, because it was supposed to be a little bit of a safety net for that reason, right? So, and it's harder sometimes to answer a question in written form versus on the fly if you have a question. So if I'm reading the notice of claim, say for against Fraser Health Authority, and I'm reading, and then I can take a break and say, okay, does anyone have any questions? The question can come in, then I can simply answer the question, and depending on the length of the video, we can either just pick it up another day or I can continue reading. The point is that you get the information, people. You get the information, right? And if we can find where it's actually listed in the courthouse, where you should be able to Google it and find it online through the courthouse archive system, right? Then we attach that link to whatever it is that I'm reading, okay, to verify that it's legitimate. Because as it stands right now, being that I'm, into that, being forced down into poverty and being held down there through various methods, whether it's financial, whether it's through legal stuff, right? In terms of you send it to the cops, we're going to dismiss it, even though, it warrants investigation. And then when it comes time to get it investigated, instead of taking the responsibility like the court should have done, they should have called the investigation. They're the ones with the resources, not me, right? It clearly states that, the cops sent Mark Kane and I and everybody else to a lawyer, knowing we couldn't get a lawyer, right? There's just so many variables in there, people. So now I got 7 people watching and I'm running out of things to say because I'm getting kind of tired. I know, Stay Alive. That's going to get me a copyright. I couldn't shut it off. I didn't know how to shut off. But YouTube has already muted a video in 2012 simply because of that song being played in a park event. I'll pull up the actual video. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll add a link. And then they released it. And then there was another time I was doing something and it came up through one of my web pages. And they copyrighted it, but they didn't mute my whole video. I don't know what they're going to do this time around. We'll find out, though. That was kind of fun, though, when you think of it. Hey, come on, guys. We're in trouble. Let's party anyway, right? Come on. Go, Judy. You got that. You got this live with segment. Commentary is great. And attachments is great. And attachments. Yeah, both. Read it out loud, give people a chance. After this, what I'm going to do is I think I can download this video onto my computer. And as long as I can do that and then save it onto my external hard drive, then I don't mind doing live streams. I really don't. Because if I'm reading something, 189 pages or whatever it is, a lot of it will be citations of actual acts and the actual criminal code, because I took the time to do it all longhand. That's why it swelled up so much, right? Some people will be interested in that. Some people won't. Obviously, many people will find it boring because it's the black on white in terms of like legislation and that type of stuff, right? But it's important to, get in touch with our basic laws, statutes, mandates, and all those other things in order to be able to understand how our society is supposed to work. First of all, people, is supposed to work, right? And if it's not working, you're not going to be able to navigate and try and make a dent in it if you don't at least make an attempt to understand what you're dealing with. So I figure if I read it to you, then you can understand what I was dealing with. And they didn't want to deal with it. Fraser Health Authority Bank and CIBC Bank, they did not want to deal with it, people. They thought that they could fucking bury it under the rug. Right? And they didn't. Because even if Shimei wouldn't have died, the only thing that would have happened if Shimei wouldn't have died is I would have already dealt with a lot more with Uncle John stuff than what I haven't done yet. Right? With her death, what it's done is it's compounded it. That's all. It's pushing what Uncle John started with Shimei going on top. It's just pushing it up. That's all. And when it comes, it's like, it's like a volcano. You can't stop a volcano, people. You can't. No matter how hard you try to cover up the freaking whatever it is, those are called. I don't know what they're called. They're not canyons. They're caverns or something. They're not caverns. There's a name for that round part of a volcano. You can't stop it from blowing its stack when it's time ready to blow its stack. Uncle John stuff is that magma coming up. That's what that is, people. Shimei just happens to be on top of that, feeding the magma. Okay. So we need to understand what the magma is, right? And if you're going to be here as a jury or as a judge, whichever one you prefer, can we have more judges? Well, I guess so, because, you know, it was supposed to be up in front of an appeal board, which would have been 3 judges, right? But that was hijacked and thrown off to the side, right? And, you know, I don't even know if I don't even know how to get a jury out here, people, in terms of Canada. Canada is completely different in terms of how they operate in the courthouse than they are in the United States of America. So what does it require to get a jury? Kill somebody? Then you might get a jury. And that's assuming that you even get charged. And that's another thing. You know, when I write this lawsuit, right, in regards to whatever I write on, I'm going to be asking for an internal investigation into all the fentanyl deaths in the province of British Columbia, Canada, because I do believe that for there's hundreds of people in British Columbia, Canada have been murdered with fentanyl. Shimei is not the only one. And it's been brushed under the table, right? Like literally murdered, as if you were to take arsenic and feed them with the arsenic in with the food. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's arsenic. It doesn't matter if it's fucking rat poison. It doesn't matter if it's freaking, what is that called? You put it in a transmission. You put it in your transmission so that your transmission doesn't antifreeze. It doesn't matter if they're using antifreeze, right? Doesn't matter. Fentanyl doesn't matter. Murder is murder when you're poisoning somebody. There is more than one person in the province of British Columbia, Canada, who has been poisoned and murdered with fentanyl. There's your justice, people. That's where the justice is going to come in from. When the government stands up to the fucking plate and starts investigating all these deaths and how it's being covered up for illicit reasons that build in that below the poverty, right? Because only certain individuals within a certain class of people or ethnic race are being targeted to sustain that upper whatever echelon shit that's going on that builds people's self-esteem, supremacy. And I'm not even going to label it white supremacy, because we got a lot of freaking ethnic backgrounds coming in from all these fucking countries that are highly educated, that think they know everything and are God's gifts under the sun, right? And therefore, they just see you as a pinion, right? And just a little ping. Your life is just a ping. It means nothing, especially if you're forced into poverty and you're forced to remain there. Okay, now we're at 8 people, and I'm getting to the point. I don't know what to say outside of what I wanted to talk about. So how do people do that? So should I, let's see if we get any numbers coming in. Okay, should I take the time to read a boring, stuffy notice of claim, 2 of them, one at a time, just so that it's vocally, for the ones that can't read but can hear, right? Right? Where it's documented in terms of how I tried to stand up for Uncle John against corporations that are preying against the elderly for personal and corporate profit, okay? Because that's the reason why, people. No other reason other than they destroyed his life and my family's life as they did it, okay? I can do that. I can read that. I don't need 300 people listening to that. I only need my crew. And this is what I wanted to touch on before, but I skipped over it. Sometimes when my kids are mad at me, right? They say, "Oh, you have no friends. You have no friends. You just sit around and do nothing all, like nobody comes." Yeah. And I'm like, you have no clue. Like you have absolutely no clue, because sometimes the more friends you have, the worse it can get, right? My grandmother said, the more friends you have, the worse it can get. So, and that's because what happens is, if you're, I don't want to say the word strong, but if you go about your business with any sense of confidence, doesn't matter what it is, even if you're being foolish about it, as long as you're confident about it, and you can keep that steady pace, maintain, have your dishes done, maybe not every day, but you get around to them when you get that 2-3 day mark, because you were doing that over there. It's when they pile up, and you start hiding them in the oven, and you start hiding them in the fucking cupboards, and they're growing mold. That's when it becomes a problem. It's not a problem if they pile up at the sink for 2 days because you were out in the yard for 2 days, right? But if people can see that you can keep up with your fucking dishes year after year after year, and your yard, without anything piling up too much, right? They get jealous. They get threatened. They don't like it, right? So, and what happens when people get jealous? They try and hurt you. That's like a woman, woman to woman. This is woman to woman. As much as I love you as my friend, I do not want you coming into my house and living with me. You're a woman. You have your house. I have my house. This is where Tisha and I are in conflict with each other, because we're being forced to be with each other for the sake of Amari, without neither one of us being able to get on with our own lives because of the responsibilities that are building around Amari. Start grandma. Exactly. I have 8 showing. Hey, chat. Okay, so let's just talk about this friend stuff for a minute. So, over the years, right, I've helped out some of my friends, needed a place to live, whatever it is. I've had places where I've rented out rooms, male and female. But what I found was that women, and I'm not putting down women, but they tend to steal off of me. Right? That's one thing, because I keep things, people. I'm not one just to, I'm not a consumer where I just consume shit and throw it out, and right, I cherish, I cherish some things, I cherish, but I tend to look after things, and and people see it as, oh, you've got a lot, and you're not going to miss this, or why should you have that, and or whatever it is. So before you know it, things start going missing. And one time I rented out this is when I had Brooks, and I was pregnant with Sierra. So we're talking like years and years and years and years, like 30, 29, Sierra's like pushing on 30 or something. So 29 years ago or whatever it was, I rented out this room to this woman because I had a 3-bedroom townhouse, right? And in order to be able to pay the rent, I had to rent out rooms, right? And so anyway, long story short, I had a feeling she was stealing from me. I had a feeling she was stealing from me, right? And I said to my mom was alive in those days. I said, gee, Mom, I said, I think this woman's stealing from me, but I don't know what to do. She says, well, let me come to the house. I'll come to the house, and I'll right? And I'm like, okay. So she comes to the house. We go upstairs. We go into this woman's room. And do you know what my mother did? Like, my jaw just dropped, right? She went in and just started grabbing bags, because this girl had big bags, plastic bags, just whatever, right? And my mom just took these fucking bags, and she just and emptied the shit out on the fucking bed. And I'm telling you, people, and this girl was big. I was little. This girl was big, right? How the hell she fit into my fucking clothes, I'll never know. But she did, and she outstretched them so much. But by the time my mom was done doing whatever my mom did, I had this mound of shit that was mine, that this girl had been stealing for a while. And of course, it was all ruined because she was bigger than me. And in those days, I had a sexy little body, right? So, I like those little things that stick to you, right? Like paint. And because they were stretchy, she stretched into them, but she's so much bigger than me, she ruined it all. And needless to say, I had to ask her to leave, right? And then there was another woman. This was before I was moving to Vancouver, right? I had Marcane, I had Sierra, and I had Brooks, right? And Marcane was like 2.5, something like that, right? Going on 3. And I said to John, look, I got to go. I can't stay in Victoria. There's no way to make any money. I have no way to better myself. It's just, I need to go to Vancouver and try it again. This was my second time to try and do something, right, in order to get myself out of that fucking manufactured poverty, right? So don't leave, Judy. Don't. And I'm like, I have to, John. I gotta go. You have a choice. You can either stay behind or you can come with me. He chose to come with me. Well, just at that time, as we were making those arrangements, another girl that I had known from the club came to me, and before we had moved, I had an available room, right? Another townhouse, and I had an available room, and she came to me and she asked me if she could rent the room, and I said yes. Well, anyway, she moved in. This was before I moved, right? She moved in, and after she moved in, that's when I found out, people, she was 7 months pregnant. She hid it from me, didn't tell me, asked me if she could rent the room. I said, okay, fine, because she was homeless, didn't need a place. I said, okay, I got her available room, no problem for now, right? John was in the basement, kids, whatever. I had an available room, and she shows up. Next thing you know, next fucking day, she tells me she's 7 months pregnant. Okay, whatever. But I was making plans to move to Vancouver because that's what I told her. Like, I'm leaving. Like, you can stay here until I leave. Then she asked me if she could come to Vancouver with me because nothing was in Victoria for her. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going. So, so she latched herself onto me. So as I moved over, obviously I moved into a house, right? And in those days, I needed to make a little bit of money, right? Because, the money was funny, right? And so I booked myself into a club making $18 an hour for a show, like a striptease show. I had to work 18-minute shows. I did 12 shows in a day for $18 a show, people. It was a 20-minute show. It was at the old Cobalt. It was enough to make a little bit of money because I just moved the family over from Vancouver, and Uncle John didn't have no big fucking huge pension plan in those days, right? So I moved this over, and I danced a week here, I danced a week there. So this girl was babysitting my kids. This is the point of this. As I was doing that, busting my butt, making sure that there was milk and whatever in the house, food for the kids or whatever, right? In this fucking house that we had moved from Victoria over that had crooked floors like this and the fucking leaky roofs, with the landlord telling me to start picking out, what is it called? Insulation to find this leak. And I said, John, we can't stay here. We need to get the hell out of this place because this is pathetic. And he said, yeah. So what happened was, within a 3-month period, I found another house that was Wally's house. So that girl moved over with me into Wally's house. So she moved into my house in Victoria, didn't tell me she was pregnant. After she moved in, she told me she was pregnant. Then she asked me to come to Vancouver with me. I said yes. She helped me out a couple times looking after the kids as I did something, right, to make money so that I could move us or whatever it was that needed to be done, right? And then that's when I found out that she was fucking stealing from me, people. She was stealing my clothes, right? She was just doing crazy fucking shit. But it didn't really hit home until after we moved into Wally's house. She followed, obviously, and she lived there for a while, right? She was jealous, right? Because she was just renting a room for me, people. It was her first baby, and I'm already in a house full of kids, doing this, building fucking playgrounds for the kids, and so she was like backstabbing me. That's what it's called, backstabbing. So you got to be careful when you let women move into your house, because one will try and overtake the other. And if the other one can't overtake the other, that's when they start stealing from you. And, they're plotting and scheming, and they're trying to sleep with your man. And of course, by that time, Shimei's dad was off and about and got deported into the United States from something that he had done. So it's not like I had a man in my life, because I was too busy looking after the kids and looking after Uncle John and trying to build a house out here as I worked on fucking trying to start a company. And instead of starting a company, I ended up founding a nonprofit because I was forced into that below the poverty, people. I couldn't work without being penalized, right? And once you get out into the workforce, You're kind of committed to that. You have to leave the house, put the kids in daycare, find daycare for Uncle John, right? So I couldn't do any of that, but I could legally work and not be penalized by founding a nonprofit. So that's what I did. In the end, after I realized that whatever I moved over for in the first place wasn't going to fucking work, because the economy is geared around keeping people in poverty, right? By the various legislated regulations that they bring in on a city level, as if you want to open up a company and a store. As soon as you want to open up a company or a store, you have to get licensing. You've got to get the fire department in there and fucking approving this. You've got to get that done. You got to bring the building up to code. If you start hiring people, you got to do this, you got to do that. It becomes so overwhelming. And if you don't have anybody to help you, how are you going to do it? You're not. Right? So you either sit there and do nothing, or you say, fuck it. I'm still in a pretty good position in life. I'm going to go off and found a nonprofit. I'm going to try and make a difference in the world. And through that process, you're going to attract people that are jealous because, one, you even took the time to fucking do it. You just didn't talk about it. You actually tried to do it. And if you get your dishes done, as long as you get them done, you're good to go. Because the ones that let them pile up in the fucking oven and the cupboards and all that other shit, they have issues, man. So be careful when you have women come into your house. And that's where Tisha and I are clashing. I already mentioned it to her a while ago. I told her, Tisha, part of what we're going through in terms of anything where there's, we're butting heads, is the fact that, we're being forced together in terms of, like I say to Tisha, well, what's going to happen when I move from this place, right? You do realize that at some point I may need you living in the same building, like in terms of a monster home. I guess in that case, it would be a blessing in disguise, because through a monster home, you'd be able to have her with her independent suite, with me in my independent suite. And the benefit around the monster home is the rooms themselves are larger versus the old bungalows from the 1960s. Which at some point, Amari's going to need that type of accommodation to be able to freely move him around in wheelchairs and that type of stuff. As well as I need the assistance. Tisha, she doesn't want to be at my, we're supposed to, leave the nest, Mom. Kids are supposed to grow up and leave the nest, Mom. I'm like, you're right. You're absolutely right. But then, at the same time, kids aren't supposed to be murdered in their own living room while the cops run around and fucking cover it up and, put out all this misinformation so that the family continues to spiral down into that forced poverty. And stay there, people. Stay there. They'll give hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to these doctors for appointments for Amari that isn't really changing anything, but they won't help me with subsidized housing in terms of giving me a voucher, I guess you could say, so that I can find a larger environment to accommodate my grandson. Oh, sure, they might put me into a complex that's infested with bed bugs because it's BC housing, low-income housing, with a bunch of raunchy people in there, right? Out of control. Kids fighting in the courtyard, all that crap. Been there, done that. Do you know that Andre can't even go next door into that subsidized apartment block over there and play with the kids because those kids over there end up swarming him and beat him up and throw him around and tease him? Serious. And he's not the only kid that happens to. And apparently it's a lot of Muslim kids that do it. Not all Muslim, but a lot of Muslim kids that are going around out there acting like bullies. So why the hell am I moving into that? I'm not, people. Not at fucking 65 years old. I can tell you that. Not going into no fucking building where people are out of control, like at Gateway Place. Been there, done that, know how it works, right? So, what it does is it builds in fear, because we don't know what the future holds for us. We don't know what's going to happen, right? And when that happens, you start to fight. As you're being forced to make plans it's like a marriage. You're being forced to make a marriage with your child for the rest of their lives, as the child in their mind grew up thinking they were supposed to grow up and leave the nest. So when my kids get mad at me, the point of all that run around, right, is they'll throw at me, well, you have no friends. You just, and I'm like, first of all, I've had friends in the past, people. My last real true friend, if I was to say I've had any friends, I've been a more one-on-one. I'm not a real group person. I'm not a real people person. I'm more of a doer than right. I'll actually wash the Christmas dishes before I'll sit down at the table and get drunk and make horny jokes. Right, fun. I don't like to get drunk, and two, getting the dishes done gives a really strong sense of accomplishment after you've had a big family meal. That doesn't mean I don't participate with the conversation. It just means that it's not my priority, right? Yes, friends are overrated, because what happened was the last real friend that I had would have been, oh my God, when I started the nonprofit. I was forming a board of directors, right? That's what you do. And, I drew in a bunch of people to become board directors. Obviously, nobody knew what they were doing. A lot of them initially in the beginning were youth, young people, kids. I wasn't letting adults hold me back. I needed to found a nonprofit. So some of those signing signatures that came in as I was registering the nonprofit were actually from children, right? Along with the required amount of adults. And this is why I need to update the website in terms of the PDF files with the minutes and all that, because if the minutes were up on the website, you'd see that, right? And so my girlfriend, I'm not exactly sure when Terry signed on, but my girlfriend, my last real girlfriend, right? That's when I was like, oh, I'm starting a nonprofit, and I have great hope, and I know we can do it, and and she just like whatever. And her husband was paying more attention to what I was saying than what she was saying. And that was only because he was with some other organization, something to do with Eagles or something. I can't remember the organization that he was connected to, but because he had already been connected to an organization in the past, for whatever reason, he was showing an interest in what I was doing. And I said, well, gee, Terry, how would you like to be a board director, since you have some experience, right? Much more than I've got. And he said, yeah, as moral support, people. Well, needless to say, I think my friend got jealous, because she what do you call it? She just started cutting me up, and I had to spend money, people. I had to spend money on the trademark, and I'd be like forking out $1,000 here, $500 there, or whatever it was at the time to follow with the federal applications in the United States and in Canada. It just wasn't one, it was two countries that I was paying for in terms of securing the trademark. And then, of course, you have to go out in the community and practice what you preach. And she just kept telling me I was wasting my time and that I needed to give it up, blah, blah, blah. And she just became a real fucking downer. Like, she just became such a real fucking downer. It got to the point where I just couldn't really go around her that much anymore. And then her husband, he tried to participate. Like, he put his signature on some of the forms in terms of the official forms, sending them in, because I remembered, I said, Terry, you want to sign this? Put your John Henry on there, because you're making history, Terry. Don't ever underestimate what people tell you. This is an important nonprofit. Put your John Henry. I will submit it. And then it's filed for life. And she didn't like it. So I don't have her as a friend anymore. I haven't had her as a friend since, oh my God, a long time, people. A long fucking time. And then, of course, when you're a mother and you're always busy, whether you're doing dishes or whatever the fuck it is you're doing, you don't really got time. Maybe when you're younger you do because your responsibilities aren't that big. But when you get older and you've got a lot of responsibilities and you have to remember some of these problems I created for myself, I didn't have to found a nonprofit. I created that problem for myself, right? So over the years, it took up time and dedication and focus. And, I didn't have time to go off and socialize, to have people stab me in the back for one reason or another, right? To criticize me, gaslight me, borrow my clothes. They come back all stained, ripped, if they come back at all, because they're fucking with you. Right? I was having problems with some of these board directors that I was signing on. Women are the worst. Sometimes they're the worst. There's one woman, her name was Amanda. She died now. She was going to take on secretary treasurer. This was back in 2004, 3, 5, or whatever it was. And, she'd come to the house and, we go over the paperwork, and she was supposed to keep the books and all this shit. And she was purposely hiding papers, people, and then had me tear my house apart looking for these fucking papers because she needed them so bad. And when I couldn't find them, well, say la vie. And then fucking a month, 2 months later, all of a sudden she'd say, "Oh, I had that paper. I found it." It was just stupid shit like that. So we're a small crew. We know that we're being forced. I'm going to end it soon here, okay? We know that we're being forced below the poverty line just by my number of views in terms of this channel, okay? In terms of what is this small group, what are we going to accomplish in the context of the larger objective when we know that the center point of that objective is really technically the nonprofit, okay? Just don't ever let go of that nonprofit, because that's like that signature. You sign it, I submit it, you are a founding director of what's happening, okay? Because if you lose sight of that, unless, of course, you're a troublemaker and just want to sabotage, then, you won't be able to get those dishes done. They'll pile up in the oven, and we don't want dishes piling up in the oven. Okay, it's okay if they pile up on the cupboard for a little while, but like on top of the cupboard, like the countertop, right? Not in the cupboard, but on the actual counter, or a few in the sink. It's okay if they pile up there because you were outside in the yard for 2 days and you were tired to come in and do dishes. The point is, as long as we get the dishes done, it doesn't matter whether we're in forced poverty or not, because we're moving along. You don't hear me crying on about, oh, not that I'm disparaging what people are saying, but I'm not too worried about being demonetized. I already told you I'm not monetizing this channel, even if I could. That was determined years ago. So outside of this staying alive, chances are YouTube will just probably stick with the format, send me a copyright, whatever, and keep the video up. And you may or may not see advertisement, which if you do, watch it all. Okay. Just give it that 5 seconds or whatever it is. And, think of it as give a little, take a little, right? To show our appreciation with that part of YouTube that actually does work in our favor, right? That's all I can say. If the whole video is muted, well, then you're going to hear me rant on about it later on. So in the meantime, I'm not too worried about having a lot of girlfriends, although I do want to say I kind of feel like I have some now, in terms of if I was to say, when it comes, you don't have no friends, Mom. You just, they want to hurt me, right? You can't keep a man, Mom. When was the last time you had a relationship, Mom? And I'm like, I'm still in one. I'm looking after you. You just don't see it. Right? The house, of course, looking after you has nothing to do with the house, right? And then, of course, when I say that to Tisha, the first thing that comes out of Tisha's mouth is, well, there's nothing in this house that I want. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, that's what you say till I'm dead. And then you get to go through everything and pick and choose what you want. When you're not rating me for toys. Right? So you can't win for losing, right? So I haven't had an actual real girlfriend now since, probably 2005, 6, around that time. I'd have to go back into my books in order to find out when Terry actually fell off the grid, because Terry ended up stepping down as a board director to satisfy his wife's insecurities, which was unfortunate. And through that process, not only did I lose a friend, but I also lost a board director because of internal something, right? And from that point forward, it's like not letting a bad relationship hold you back. I don't let relationships hold me back. I just keep going forward. And that's basically what I've been doing. And so now I'm with a group of women that don't live in my house. So we're safe, women. Okay. Let's count our blessings while we have them. Right. That's the first thing. When in doubt, we know that we're not up in each other's mix here. So that gives us the freedom that we need to be able to move around and actually accomplish something in our daily lives. And if we take it to that pinpoint, right, perspective as to why I'm even doing Alive in terms of the greater grand scheme of the nonprofit, that gives us the flexibility to hone in on our natural abilities and skills to push the envelope for multiple levels of justice. Right? Whether it's justice from a universal school meal perspective, in terms of you're probably living in an area where there's hungry kids going to school, right? I mean, it could be anywhere. And there's just not enough safety nets in there to help those parents with food security, right? That's the pinpoint of the nonprofit, right? The PEP program, justice in terms of just how our justice systems work, because by me reading what I wrote and how the court balked at it and misrepresented it and then tried to blame me by saying I wrote too much because I didn't give them that window of opportunity to escape with a settlement in terms of, you wrote 5 pages, you pointed this, and this out, but if we settle on this out of court, it removes everything else that's in those 5 pages, never mind what's in those 187 pages, people. That's the court game. Out of 187 pages, they'll pick one thing, maleficence, and they'll try and settle out of court to remove all the other shit and bury it that's in that lawsuit. That's not justice. Okay, that is not justice. So I figure I'm going to post this stuff up one way or another, and I'm going to read it. And for my below the poverty group, aren't we all kind of struggling here, people? Aren't we all faced with our, we can't move forward in life, only seem to move backward as they blame the interest rate and once in a while Wall Street, right? But never that internal legislation that disrupts lives to the point where you're fixed into that one fixed income as you're being forced out of your housing with no place to go, which is another form of forced poverty, which goes into that political genocide, which allows for corporate corruption. That's not being addressed officially or even correctly on a court level because it's too easy for the court to fucking bury the information. So if I was to have any friends, it's this small little group that hang out with me. And I don't feel threatened by my friends because you're not living in my house. And just because I do a live stream or I do videos doesn't make you directly connected to me in my house as if you know everything about me and you have a right to dictate to me how I should live my life, because that's not the way it works. No. For some people, they seem to think they can do that, but that's not the way it works. So now we're at 10. I don't know, 1 hour and 25 minutes. Wisconsin is probably yes, an area that would require assistance with. I'm assuming that you're talking about a universal school meal program in the United States. Yes, the federal government does provide meals to children. How it actually works, I'm not too sure. All I know is that I do admire. One of the inspirating factors, and Americans should feel good about this. Okay, we all know that the universal school meal program started within the Black community with the Black Panthers back in the 60s or whenever it was, when they went out there and just started feeding the kids, right? We know that's how it all started. And we know that anytime we want to start something where we're helping other people, blah, 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 the government steps in through their various cities and bylaw this and bylaw that and blah, blah, code and this, that. And they took over the fucking lunch program and then they turned it into a federal program where they funneled, a bunch of shit that, wasn't necessarily right for the kids in terms of, giving them foods that, weren't for cost saving measures or whatever it is. There's always room for improvement. That's what I'm trying to say. And how they determine who qualifies for this school meal program in the United States, I'm not sure. All I know is that they have actual functioning kitchens, something that I like, right? That they can cook up these meals and serve them to the children. That has always been my vision, people, for Canada, because we don't have that. We don't have that. But we have a lot of hungry kids below that manufactured poverty level, as well as above in that particular class where it's not that 10%, 20% up. So we've got a lot of hungry students in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and still no meal program. However, I've got some American friends on here, right, that already have the systems in place that can be proud of what they have. And if there's any way that we can find a way from that pinpoint nonprofit perspective to help those existing meal programs in the United States within those existing kitchens, whether it's restoring the kitchen and bringing it up to what is it called? Earthquake code, because that's something that the United States has, is a lot of older school buildings, the brick and mortar buildings that are heritage buildings, but aren't necessarily been brought up to code in terms of earthquake ready, right? Safe or whatever, right? This is from that grander nonprofit perspective. We should be focusing on helping with restoring those schools to continue with the programs that they have, but only improve the programs with the meals for the kids. And if we can do that in the United States, then it wakes up Canada, because nonprofit is the catalyst for the two countries to help each other accomplish that goal. I figure that if and when I can ever get fucking my people out here to step up to the plate and get serious about bringing in a universal school meal program, all our cooking equipment is coming from America. We're getting our stoves, our fridges, our everything. Everything's coming from America. So you're opening up a whole brand new manufacturing industry, because we got a lot of fucking schools out here in Canada that need kitchens. But we're not there yet. We're below that poverty line, just fighting for justice, for basic justice. You should go out and work. You'll make more money going out to work than being on welfare. Well, first of all, I'm going blind. Okay, I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm probably going to end up losing my driver's license soon. I don't know if it will be the next time I see my, what is it called? Eye specialist, which is in February. But I suspect that over the next 5 to 10 years, I won't be allowed to drive because I'm going blind. That's just a fact, people. I'm going blind. Like, you don't know. There's something else going on there. I only keep up with the pace because it's what God has given me in terms of you either keep up with the pace or you curl up and die. You have a choice. Which one? You're going to die sooner or later, so you might as well try keeping up with the pace. Because if you curl up and die and you look back as you're dying and you realize you didn't even make an effort to keep up with the pace, you're going to die miserable. But if you die knowing that you tried to keep up with the pace and you're going to die anyway, right, then you can die with some satisfaction. And hopefully when you die, you would have empowered some people to be able to keep up with the torch, or whatever that torch may be, whether it's justice for Shemaine, justice for Uncle Marquin, or Uncle John, or whether it's justice for school meal programs, right? School restoration, whatever it is, right? So they can say what they want. I'm not going to remove the comment. This is nothing new. This is an Uncle John Duncan clan infiltrator. And if not, it would be something to do with Amari, right? Because we know I have my hater crowd that want to see me fail. It's like that woman moving into my house, then telling me that she's pregnant, then coming over to Vancouver to, smack my kids around when I was trying to make money so that she had a roof over her head, moved her into a better house as she was eating my children's cereal, stealing stuff from me, getting Uncle John and I to fight, all in the end because she was jealous and she couldn't fucking hold down her own fucking fort. I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to, people. That's what it boils down to. So, you can't, 19 thumbs later, I'm sure this person will find a way to bring in 19 thumbs down. And I don't remove that little thing on these lives. I let the thumbs show up or show down, right? Because I've already got videos in my past videos documenting 19 thumbs down as Uncle John was being medically kidnapped. And those corporations were trying to hide him like their dirty secret right along with the people who took him. And then, the thumbs downs, they all came in because they thought that if they could make me curl up and die and make my family curl up and die, right, that the problem would go away, that they would be able to get away with what they did. And then they could go off and do it to somebody else. So there's lots of variables in there. And so anyway, we're a small group. We're not losing out on anything here in terms of we're not competing for money. We're not competing for views. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to get some results in terms of again, if anyone's got any time to look up these lawsuits that I filed with the Supreme Court of Canada in Vancouver. If you want, I can give you the numbers, right? Or when I pull them out and I read them, I'll give you the numbers, the docket numbers, and see if you can locate them. If you're good at that kind of stuff, let me know. Let me know if you can locate them because I wouldn't know where to look. I can't find them, but it doesn't mean that they're not valid, right? They need to be addressed. They need to be dealt with the naysayers or not. Die with satisfaction. Yeah, you die, you either live your life for just either to be a consumer and to consume and throw things away and to me, right? There's people out there like that, right? Or you live your life, especially if you're being targeted or your family's being targeted, you either live with fear and you cower like an abused woman and you cover up your bruises and you hide and you don't talk to nobody. Like I'm the perfect candidate because I don't have any friends to come around and check up on me, right? I'm too busy with the house because we know if I don't do the yard at some point, that's just an open book to be targeted with the yard for all the political reasons, right? It's not because I'm a bad person. It's just because they want the house that they can tear it down and build in the improvement. They want to build in the improvements and get rid of the flaws, right? That's to build wealth for themselves and their families, for their own families, not for the community, right? Not for the up and coming children. They don't care about universal school meal programs or school restoration. Half of them, most of them, have their kids in private schools and have already put themselves above everybody else for anyone that's flourishing in the province of British Columbia, Canada. So why would they care if we have hungry kids? But at the end of the day, you know, I'm asking myself, well, why are you here? Why, if you're only getting 58 views from a handful of people, we'll just say, you know, 40 people at best watch my channel, because you have to remember some of those views are coming in back into the same video to read the comments, right? So there's not 58 individuals watching my channel. It's maybe 30 or 40, with a good percentage of them haters. Those Cheryls that move into your house and lie to you and steal from you, eat your children's food, smack your kids around, and then smiled up in your face as you go out of your way to help them. Everybody knows somebody like that. So we got to expect to have that in the chat, okay? There's no news flash, no surprises. The point is, you're not moving into my house. So, you know, what you do is what you do, because at the end of the day, the ones that do count, like Terry, right? Terry inspired me to keep moving forward. Back in whatever it was, 2003, 2005, 2006, I'd have to go back into my records to find out when he signed that paper and said, yeah, I believe in what you do. It's a good cause. Hang in there. No matter what my wife says, hang in there. And even though he fell off the grid, Terry is still in my ear saying, don't give up. So the 30 to 40 that are thinking like that, wherever you're looking for your justice, because it's not about just my justice. Okay, obviously Shimei is showing the way, Uncle John is showing the way, but at the end of the day, you know, there's got to be something that you guys can get out of this in terms of, like, if you're, you know, if you've lost your own Uncle John, how do you fight for your own Uncle John? How do you fight when nobody shows you how to fight for your own Uncle John? How do you fight for your own son? If something bad happened to your son and you're sitting there like me, having your kids scream at you that you don't have no fucking friends because you're too busy trying to hold down the fucking fort, right? Just so that there is a roof over people's heads. Never knowing where you're going to go next, right? As you go blind. As you're being trolled by individuals that can't even acknowledge that Shimei was murdered, and want to try and cover up that fact by any means necessary, by thinking that they can distract with idiotic comments that, in the great grand scheme of that pinpoint of whatever we do on a nonprofit level, foundation level, in the great grand scheme of the countries, more than one, right? But you can't defend yourself in any capacity if you're not showing how. So through my mistakes, in terms of 187 pages later, you'll learn how to write them down to 20, because not only will I read the 187 pages, but then I'll read the 20 pages that was condensed down from that 187, so that by the time you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make that attempt, because that's the only way for you to get any kind of justice, because you're not doing it for the money, right? You're doing it for the justice. You'll know a little more what to do versus having to go through it blind like me and then figure it out, right? Did they come back and say something? Oh. I really do. I haven't read anything yet, but I really do want to invite somebody to participate with me on this as a test, Okay, if after I'm done this, I'm going to see if I can download this long ass video. You do longer videos doing live streams than you would if you were doing it on a camera. That's one thing I'm noticing. I'm going to see if I can download this video onto my computer and then transfer it to my hard drive if I can do that, again, I have no problem continuing to do live streams. Right. However, if I'm going to do live streams, I'd like to open up the panel. This is one reason why I like StreamYard, because I can invite people to participate with me and you get your own block. I'm not too sure how it's going to work with the mics and everything until we get to that point, right? So I just want to put the invitation out there. I mean, we could talk about anything. We don't have to talk about Uncle John. We don't, we could talk about flowers, we could talk about lumber, whatever you want to talk about, right? If you just want to get up there and try it for yourself, or you've got something that you want to say outside of trying to make it personal and bashing me. Because if you come on and start bashing me and trying to distract away from the pinpoint that spreads out to everything that's around it, then obviously, you're just a troll and a troublemaker, and you can go get your own fucking, what is it called, page and stream yourself, right? You can stream yourself. Okay, we're always going to have haters, but at the end of the day, our dishes get done. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing. There are people that just don't do dishes, and then they wonder why their life falls apart. I had an aunt like that. My mom used to take me to my aunt's house. Auntie Jerry, I really looked up to her. She was the epitome of what was right because she was a chartered accountant and she made good money, people. But for some reason, she suffered from depression, and it must have went untreated. I don't know. All I know is when I was a kid, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever it was, even as a teenager, when my mom would take me by to go visit my aunt, Auntie Jerry, she'd say, "You want to make $20?" I'd be like, "Yeah." Well, let me tell you, that's when I would wash every dish in the house. She had them in the stove. She had them fucking in the cupboard stuffed full. She had them all over the counters. She had them under the freaking cupboard where the garbage cans were. And some of them had mold in them because she was a coffee drinker. And you know how in the coffee cup it molds up real freaking fast. And oh my God, every last dish in the house. Because she hated doing dishes, people. Even though out in the real world, in terms of being a professional and a woman who went to work, she could hold that down no problem, right? She was running a hotel at one point, and she was like the general manager or the manager or whatever it was of a hotel, as well as the the major accountant, because that's how qualified she was with her accounting, right? And in those days, she was making good money. But at the end of the day, long story short, she had twins, and she was having a hard time with them. And this is when I just had Marcaine and whatnot. I offered to take her twins because she was just having a real difficult time. She didn't want me to have her twins because she felt I was too young and inexperienced and she could do a better job than me. But long story short, she ended up losing her kids as they turned into teenagers because she became a bingo addict who basically had no food in the house and dirty laundry piled up in freaking 10 bags later. My Uncle Nick told me one time he went and got 10 big, huge garbage bags full of fucking dirty clothes that he had to chuck out because she didn't wash clothes. And well, we already know she didn't do her dishes. And her kids ended up going into, drugs, and the ministry came and took them away from her because, they were setting fires because they had no food in the fucking house. And apparently she was doing heroin. So don't ask me how that one worked. And then she died. All because she couldn't do fucking dishes. Honest to God. Nobody likes to do dishes, but at some point you have to keep up with them, because if you can keep up with dishes, you can keep up with anything. As soon as you start getting those dishes piled up in your fucking oven and cupboards and everywhere, and you don't touch them, then it goes on to other things. And then it becomes to the point where you really lose control of your life. And that's not going to be my fucking, that's not me. That's not me. So where are we with, see, I can't read this. And like I said, don't be surprised if I don't lose my license soon. Unless they can give me a really good pair of glasses that I can wear every day, where I can actually even read the computer. Because if they give me glasses, I can't read the computer with them. I have to use dollar store glasses. But like right now, because my eyes are tired, everything is starting to get smoky. It's clouding over now for me. Eight people watching. Any questions? You're right. It's always someone else's fault with Judy. Okay, so we've got the GMOIers in here now. This is what this is, people. The GMOI, get off my internet, is honestly, my opinion about GMOI. Now, I've been told that Alice Wright is the founder of GMOI, who happens to be an alcoholic that uses multiple usernames on her own website to cause shit and gossip, basically. That's what I was told in terms of if you go, well, I read. If you go and you Google GMOI, Google Alice Wright, do a little bit of background, you'll find that a lot of people have discovered that she's an alcoholic and that, she likes to cause shit and whatever. So, she cruises YouTube or wherever, blogs, people type about recipes and all this stuff. And she puts up a little fucking post on her website so that people can come in and have a, hate fest, gossip, rumor. I'm busy.
How long are you going to take that?
Oh, well, soon. I'm done soon. Go away. Leave me alone. I'm almost done. Andre, please. Yeah. Andre, fine.
I already had it.
Okay. So, that's when the thumbs down really kicked in, but they opened up my thread in 2014 after Joan died. Okay. And then as soon as John disappeared, that's when it blew up because they were trying to make me look bad so that people wouldn't take me serious about what I was saying about Uncle John being medically kidnapped and then basically had his life destroyed through that process. And because they don't want, they're trying to bury that story, right? What better way than to flip it on me and say that I blame Fraser Health Authority and CIBC Bank for what happened to Uncle John and how it impacted my kids. And because of that, it makes me irresponsible by not taking the responsibility of what I didn't do right. So that those court dockets can disappear, people. So those court dockets can disappear. And the corporations are never held account to how they influenced Uncle John's early death, how his assets were robbed from him from a corporate sense in terms of how they kicked me out as power of attorney and enduring a power of attorney without going in front of a court to do it. Right? So that's what these people are about. You are sad. Why are you so worried about Judy? Yeah, I know. I think there's more important things to be worrying about than how it all came about outside of justice. Where do we find justice for our communities? On what levels do we find justice for our communities? Where is the justice for all the kids that are going hungry with all this distraction going on in my life, so that the board director that's thinking about becoming a president is a little tepid on it because there's so much drama around it? You know what I mean? It should be cut and dry. This man could go lobby the government, get the $160 million, no fucking problem, 10-year investment, right? Then the federal government jumps on. I mean, like, having a universal school meal program with the right leadership in terms of what's going on with this nonprofit is feasible, people. but not when there's all this drama with the trolls coming in from GMI, get off my internet. Like, it's been how many years since Uncle John's been gone? Since 2015, and you're still fucking trolling me? Like, come on. like, don't you get tired? Is your ass like literally glued to the chair? You know, right? Like, literally, is your ass glued to the chair? Have you been sitting there for what, 4 years waiting for this day so you can come in there and say, I blame everybody for my problems, when all I'm doing is keeping up with my fucking dishes and everything else that's on my plate in a day, so that when I die, I can say it's not that bad and I made a difference? And you're going to still sit there and say that I'm complaining and feeling sorry for myself? Okay, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to empower a whole bunch of people, even if it's a small group, and it's just going to keep on going. And then what you going to do? Attack them? And still complain about me after I've been dead for 2 years? Oh, Judy still fucking got her hand in the cookie jar, convincing people that she's the victim. Well, my kids were the victim. Uncle John was the victim. Vulnerable kids and families are the victim. All right? I'm just the spokesperson on it, people. Right? That's all. That's all it is. I have to blow my nose. Okay, so where are we? Paper plates are great. Yeah, my son is starting to use more paper plates because he doesn't have time. It's not that he doesn't like to wash dishes. He will, but he's finding that if he can just kind of use paper plates, a little more often, it cuts down on the dishes. For me, I've thought about it, but for one, I wouldn't spend the money. That's the first thing. And, dishes are just a fact of life. Obviously I have more because I have children in the house now. And so, I don't want to I don't want the extra expense, and I don't want the bleaches. And I told this to my son, be careful what you eat out of a plate. If you're looking at gravies and stuff like that, you're better off with a bowl or even a plate for that matter, because, these plates are bleached. So the more you eat off a bleached plate, right? Sooner or later, you're going to absorb that into your food, right? As you're eating it, as the food itself is sitting on the plate, it's going to absorb what's on the plate, and then you ingest it. And then over a period of time, if you're constantly using the paper plate or whatever it is, you're going to build up those, thank you. I'm almost done. You're going to build up those impurities in your blood from those products, right? So, all in moderation, I guess you can say. Whereas for me, it's not feasible because I go through too many dishes in a day, like between cups with Andre and bowls for Amari and pots and, just whatever it is, like, it piles up really fucking fast. I need to find a great well to fill up glass bottles. I'm trying, yes, get rid of plastic, even mason jars like this size. Hold on. Oh, get stiff. These are handy. This is 1.5 liters. These are nice. So, yeah, wean yourself off of plastic containers when you're storing food, spices, whatever it is. When in doubt, just go off and buy yourself a case of mason jars. They have various sizes, right? And just use them to store your spices or whatever you're storing. And yes, paper plates are bleached. All that stuff is bleached. It's like toilet paper or paper towels, right? It's better, to be honest, it's better to put your French fries on newspaper than it is on paper towels, simply because of the bleach, right? But, if all you have is paper towels, then just use paper towels. But yeah, you would think that after a while, eating off of paper plates for a long period of time and nothing else, especially when you start getting into your gravies and that type of thing, where it's actually leaching into the paper plate, or styrofoam for that matter, you know, it's your food is absorbing it, and over a period it's just, you know, a little here, little here, little here, little here, little here. Before you know it, you're going to have those impurities in your blood as they accumulate over a period of year or two or three or whatever it is. So all in moderation when eating off plates. Get your favorite bowl. Have a favorite bowl, right? Recycle it in the woods. Make impact with you, Judy. Awareness is wisdom. Open eyes. Eyes open. I have to just go up here a little bit. We're still sitting at 8. 2 of them, 3 of them are naysayers. Just been sitting there for the last, 4 years. They haven't moved. They got a chair glued to their ass when it comes to my channel. I'm up. Use paper plates. My hands have carpal tunnel. Terrible. I'm not doing surgery. Shimei had that. That's where you put on that little hand brace thing, right? She had to wear it. I still have it in the house somewhere. I hear it's painful. That's you know, for me, for as much work as I do in a yard, like, you know, just whatever, I don't get a lot of like pains in my wrists and stuff. If I'm hitting with a sledgehammer, or, you know, doing a lot of banging, like hard, heavy banging, then yeah, my hand, or the skill saw, if I'm using a skill saw for a long period of time, right, my hands will get a little stiff. But outside of that, I don't have like any problems. Except for that one time when I slept on them. Remember I said in one video, oh, I don't know what I did to myself. That way I'm pretty lucky. However, I find that when I'm doing computer work, if I'm doing computer work for like 12 hours straight, or I'm doing computer work for days and days and days and days, and I'm typing and, you know, using my mouse, I'm making web pages, or just, you know, just a lot of mouse work, it will get sore. Right? That will get sore. So, you know, you have to be careful with computer stuff. It's not good for your eyes. It will in long run make you go blind because of the blue rays that come through it. Shimei used to come up to me and she'd say, "Oh, Mom, you know, your computer screen is so bright. You need to turn it down in terms of the brightness." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's the only way I can see it, Shimei. Like, I can't see it, really see it any other way." You know, you have to remember, I started working on nonprofit stuff on a computer since 1999, people, right? And over that period of years, it's done a lot of damage to my retina. It's not just glaucoma, okay? And there's other things going on in there in terms of looking at the blue rays that come in off the computer screens, which these LD lights that are coming in that require no light bulbs for life, Google them. Don't get them into people who are building houses are putting them up like flies for whatever reason, not realizing that the light spectrums on those lights are bad for your eyes, just as bad as the computer screen. But for some reason, they're being put into houses now as the main light source, because the people that are putting them in, they're not doing the research, because they're trying to get rid of the standard light bulb, right? They're trying to get rid of the standard light bulb, right? And they're bringing in these LDE lights, which on a light spectrum are not good for your eyes. So in the next 20 years from now, what's going to end up happening is you're going to find a lot of people are going to start going blind much faster. But from a doctor's perspective, I suppose that's good because it's a lot of work for them, right? Bad for us, though, because then what happens is, you know, as we go blind, we get idiots coming into our channels and telling us to go to work, right? Where am I going to put Amari? In daycare? Who's going to look after Amari all day long while I go to work? How asinine is that? What? Right? As I'm going blind. Not to mention this pressure in my head. Yeah, well, again, for me, paper plates, all in moderation. It's not something that I buy, right? I don't mind my dishes piling up for a day or two or whatever it is. Like I got to do dishes after I get off here and then start some laundry because I have a machine upstairs that I can use in my own kitchen sink, and then I hang dry, save on hydro. Don't like going up and down the stairs, right? But for my son, it works better for him, but I do tell him, like, don't eat everything all the time off the plate. Sometimes you have to eat off a bowl, right? Better for you. Let's see. Need carve some wood. More available here. Yeah, speaking of carving wood, here. What do you think? What do you think that is? I want to try and get Andre to carve this a little bit, make something for his Andre the Walnut art. You can kind of guess what it might be. Right. Have you made homemade soap from wood, Ash? No. And, the whole process just seems kind of complicated. And I think if you're going to be a soap maker, you've got to be kind of dedicated. You know what I mean? In terms of just dedicated, right? You really have to enjoy your craft, right? So it's not something that I could spend a lot of time on in terms of that dedication. So it wouldn't be anything that I would really attempt to do. I mean, I've thought about it. I think I have a couple of those little, boxes where they're kind of like pre-made little kits to do that, which I have up in the cupboards. But because I don't really have a lot of time to do this kind of stuff, oftentimes this stuff just sits there and does nothing. But that's not to say that I won't pull out that box one day and do it with Andre, which more than likely I would do it online just for the fun of it, right? And just make for a good video. Well, okay, we're making soap today because I have it in a little, pre-made box kit that we kind of make our little bars, and I don't know if it's candle making or soap making or both. But as far as anything serious, no. You work hard enough. Power to all the good women. Yeah. And I'd like to think that we have some good women in this group that frequent my page. And again, taking it back to the beginning, we have the advantage of we don't live in the same house. We live in different houses. So because of that, we can get along, right? We can get along. And over time, I'd like to think that even as a small group below that forced poverty line, we can make a difference on a grander scale, right? Because there's so many YouTubers falling off the grid right now for whatever reason, like I ask myself, well, what direction do you want to take your channel in? Do you want to fall off the grid because the transmission fell out one week, the tires fell off the next week, right? In terms of the YouTube glitches, right? Or do I want to just stick with my 40 or 50 subscribers that come regularly and chat and support and whatever, so that we just keep going like this? Because at the end of the day, there's that volcano, that magma underneath that's coming up. And you can't stop it, people. You can't stop it when it blows its stack. Okay, we're down to 6. I had my run past 3-year medical issues as well. My son, I understand the pharma. My doc knows. I know. Raise you probably 20 years over, but it's not That with the eyes. Truth. The gold green light, the rays, the 5G networks, the pressure in my head, the ringing in my ears. People didn't come in until they brought in the smart meters and they fucking increased the Wi-Fi. All this technology warfare at our hands. Go to work, laughing my ass off. Me too. Ringing out, Judy. I got the ring out. My clothes. Peace to all who's listening. Peace. Okay, we'll end it now. So, but before we end it, yes or no? Should I read the notice of claim, whether it's, would you prefer it on live or would you prefer it through video? Which one? We'll start with Fraser Health Authority. It's about 187 pages. I need to know. Nobody wants to make a commitment. Hello? You leaving it up to me to decide. Is that it? I'm giving time for the for this to what do you call it? Play back. Where's that book? Okay, we're going to end it on this note. Do you see this book? Where am I? Okay, how do you make it so it doesn't look upside down? I mean, that's completely upside down. It's all backwards. Oh, no. There it is. What was I seeing there? Live. Okay. Okay. So you see this book? What's your fragrance? Lavender, tea, tree oil. Well, you know, I don't really have a fragrance because I'm a farmer first before anything else and have been for the last 10 years hardcore. So it's not anything. If anything, I'm allergic to aerosols now when it comes to perfumes and, you know, air fresheners and that kind of shit, from pulling out bags and bags and bags and bags of Morning Glory that gave off histamines while I did it. So I don't really get caught up with fragrance, you know, smelly nice stuff too much at this point in my life. I'm just busy trying to keep up with the dust. So anyway, this book here, before I go, okay, this one here, now I'm pretty sure I have another one around, because what's happening here is this was my book years and years ago, back from 2003, 4, 5, whatever. I ended up lending it to Tisha's half brother because he was a vegetarian, right? And I told him, like, when you were done with the book, give it back to me. Anyway, long story short, he had the book. And then I eventually asked him, well, when can I get my book back? He said, oh, he didn't have the book no more. And oh my God, people, I was so disappointed. So disappointed. Okay, I'm going to do one other thing here. I was so disappointed. Just hold on. I was so disappointed because this is one of my favorite books in life. I love this book. Right? And I was heartbroken. That he lost it. So anyway, long story short, one day, 10 years, 15 years later, or whatever it was, I went to the thrift store. I'm looking for something here. I'm ending on this note. Speaking of a universal school meal program, right? I went to a thrift store, and I have 2 of these around the house. Okay. And I found in the thrift store, people, like 15 years later or whatever, 12, 15 years later, my book in the book section of Value Village. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. It's my eyes, people. Oh my God. I have to update this web page. These web pages. Just go a little more blind. All right. Oh, why am I? Oh, wrong page. Okay. This is the history behind this book. Okay. Hold on. I'm just bringing up another page here. I don't know if there's music on it. We'll find out.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to StreamYard again. Okay, do you see that? You see that? God forbid if you're hearing a MIDI. Are you hearing a MIDI on there? No. Okay. This page, you see? Oops, how do I do this? I move it right from the browser itself. Do you see? I don't know why you were hearing that music before. We're in trouble with YouTube anyway. This is how we're going to end it, people. Spread goodwill. This is where it started, right here.
I'm gonna go into my room, okay? No? I'm already sleeping. No. Shh.
So, stay focused.
I'm gonna go into my room, okay now?
I'm not done yet. Just about. I'm shutting down.